Memphis is the home of the blues, rock and roll, and Earle Farrell.
From the Collierville Square to the mighty Mississippi, the Earle Farrell for Memphis show is all about good things that happen across the Bluff City and the people who make Memphis cool.
The Earle Farrell for Memphis show is made possible by our title sponsor, Southern Security Federal Credit Union, and by Kathy Thurman Edwards, State Farm Insurance.
By Dive Shop and Dive Ventures nationwide. Jim Karras Chevrolet with George Gully. Napa Cafe Memphis and Glenda Hastings. For Memphis Magazine. The Live at the Garden Concert Series. And the Orpheum Theater Group Memphis. And by Mitch Wright Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, family owned and operated for more than 40 years. Thank you to all the sponsors for making this possible.
And now, coming to you from Lansky Brothers, Clothier to the King, inside the world-famous Peabody Hotel, with the heart of a cowboy and Memphis in his soul. Ladies and gentlemen, here's your host, Earle Farrell.
And thank you very much, and welcome into Lansky's Clothier to the King. And Hal clothed me again today, and also my guest, Scott Bomar, who you're going to meet in a minute. We're going to kind of give you an overview of Scott Bomar and all that he's accomplished, which is quite a bit. He is from Memphis. He's always been a musician, and he has accomplished so much and loves Memphis music and the history of Memphis music, which is one thing that I am admiring for very much. I'm a huge history buff. Love the great history that we do have in Memphis, of all the history, but music history especially. This was a documentary that was shot at his early studio several years ago, but it gives an overview of all that he's been involved with, shows you back then, and then we'll come out and we'll meet the real living thing right after this. So let's take a look.
My name's Scott Bomar. I'm a recording engineer, a producer, and film composer, and this is my studio, Electrophonic Recording. Got into recording because I was in bands when I was younger. I would just pay a lot of attention to what the engineer was doing. I'd hang over his shoulder and I'd ask them a million questions about what they were doing and bug them to death. I learned a lot from a fellow named Roland James, who was an engineer and session guitar player at Sun Studio. He worked with Sam Phillips in the 50s and 60s. He was one of the first engineers I ever worked with. Doug Easley, I've worked with him and really learned a lot from Doug. And Willie Mitchell, I had to say I learned an immense amount from Willie about recording and about putting records together and about producing. Around the time I did the music for Hustle and Flow, I decided to buy my own equipment so I could record my own music, and it just kind of grew from there. You know, being a musician myself, I tried to make Electrophonic the kind of place that someone coming to record would relax and create. I've done a lot of film work here: Hustle and Flow, Black Snake Moan, Gospel Hill, Soul Men. Probably the majority of people that I've worked with are a lot of independent Memphis artists and local artists. There's so many great musicians here. I can't really imagine trying to make a record anywhere else, because every time I go to make a record, I have Memphis musicians in mind, especially with film scoring. I will write parts specifically for particular musicians. Recently, I've been working with the City Champs. They're an instrumental soul jazz group. It's called the Safe Cracker, and I'm going to be actually releasing that on my own label. And I was fortunate enough to work on 2 Al Green records, and that was amazing. It was an amazing experience to work on those. Some other artists who've been through the studio here: David Banner, Al Capone, the Bo Keys, Tunnel Clones, the Haunted Hearts, Jay Retard recently. I've also done some work with Jack Oblivion. I'm a big fan of Jack's, really influenced by him, really loved his group, The Compulsive Gamblers. They're one of the first rock bands I ever saw live, really like those guys a lot. I've been working recently with an artist named Ryan Peel, who I'm really excited about. I'm really excited about $5 Cover. It's been a project that Craig Brewer has been talking to me about for a while now, and I'm just amazed how it's all come together, and it's great to see all of my friends in Memphis and all the musicians here on camera. It's fun. I love Memphis music. I'm very biased, and I'm really excited for the rest of the world to see what's going on here in Memphis.
Scott Bomar, that was him then. He had his electrophonic studios for about 2 decades, and then he came back to Sam Phillips Recording Studio because it is such a huge part of Memphis history. They opened up in the 60s and have never been closed, and it must have been a huge thrill for you to come and step into a piece of history like Sam's studio. And in fact, you were just talking to his son, Jerry, on the way over here, who we've had on recently. So welcome to the show, Scott.
Great to be here, Earl. Glad to be on the show.
Well, you've accomplished so much. It has to be very gratifying to sit there and watch that piece that was done so many years ago. You've been nominated for Grammys, Emmys. You're in one of the most famous cities in the world for music, and being in Memphis, Tennessee.
There's not too many places that would be a better place to grow up and be into music. I mean, it's everywhere here. It's such a great music town. So many great people that I was able to learn under and be mentored by. Seeing that video earlier really took me back. That's a few years old now, but I mentioned in there Willie Mitchell and Roland James. Those are 2 major figures for me.
And then here is Boo Mitchell, who was in just the other day here. Such a nice guy, as his dad was. His dad used to play for me at Sleep Out Louie's when I had that years ago. And we'd come in and cram them in up the front, and the place would be packed with a line out the door just for people to come in and dance to Willie Mitchell,
Great band. He's a great trumpet player, great band leader, great producer, great writer, great engineer. He kind of did a little bit of everything. In
the piece that you talked about, he learned so much under Willie about the whole process. And I was talking to Ron Childers about this the other day, and we both started out in broadcasting. He was hanging around a radio station, so was I, just a gopher. What can I get you? I just want to be around this. And you don't see that anymore. Of course, with TV stations, you got to have a badge to get in. You got to have a badge to go from one room to the next. Mm-hmm. Nobody hangs out. But I don't see kids coming in and say, just let me be around this. And maybe it's the corporate world, but are there young people coming in to see you saying, can I just hang around and learn?
There definitely are.
Good.
That still exists, thankfully.
Absolutely, because otherwise you would have never gotten into it. I would have never gotten into it, because the more you get into it, the more you loved it and said, I want to learn more. You mentioned that in your piece, that it was, I just kept asking questions and bugging them. In fact, the guy that's the news director at a TV station in Austin where I was in school, I went to see him about every 2 or 3 weeks saying, can I read for you again? He'd go, okay. We'd go in a recording booth and I would read some copy, and I was from West Texas, so it was the cowboy cut the wire with some pliers, and he said, you're getting better, Earl. Keep working on it. But he never was discouraging, and I always said, you just keep going and go back to wherever you're from. I said, he said, where was that? I said, Odessa, Texas. Go back there, bug them the way you bug me, and you will get a job.
Was Roy Orbison from Odessa, Texas?
Right outside Odessa. Yeah. And in fact, when I went to work back in the town where I grew up, and I said, he'd just come out with Pretty Woman. Wow. I said, and he's from here. Let's get him on Channel 7. They said, well, somebody made fun of his glasses one time here and said he'd never make it in television. And he said he'd never come on this station again. I think he eventually did. But Everything I've ever heard about Roy was just great. He was just such a nice human being. Did you ever meet Roy?
Unfortunately, no. I always ask Jerry Phillips about Roy because he's one of my favorite artists of all time. And he said that Roy came to Memphis to record for his dad, and he had his band from Texas that came with him, and I guess it didn't go well at first, and the band left him.
Just abandoned him.
That's what Jerry says, and that Jerry Phillips says Roy Orbison lived at their house for a little while when he was a kid.
Wow. One of the funniest stories I ever heard, and he would tell it on himself. He'd gotten big, and he was in Nashville, and he bought a Harley. These was it Broadway? Is that the main street where all the bars are now? And he said it was a Saturday morning. I pull up to a red light, and because everybody was looking at it to this back in the days, he didn't have a helmet on. And he said, I kind of lost my balance, and it fell over in the middle of the intersection. All these people were honking, "Hey, Roy!" And he said, "Can somebody help me get this thing up?" I had to get some assistance to help me get up. But the thing that I think is the most fascinating thing to me, moving here from Dallas in '78, right after Elvis passed away, all these people lived here, and they're just regular people. They go to the grocery store. They just happen to be in the music business. They just happen to have world-class hits, like you mentioned Al Green. But look at all the artists that have called Memphis home over the years, and they go out and they do these incredible things, and they come back here, and they're just regular people.
I remember being younger, and I'd run into Rufus Thomas out and talk to him. I'd run into Sam Phillips at, Buntons over on Southern when it was there. These kind of bigger than life people were just, like you said, you just see them every day in Memphis.
And they were unaffected. And I think that's the other thing I love about Memphis is people are unaffected by where we live and the people that we've met and interacted over as neighbors over the years. When you come to Memphis, people pretty much judge you just on face value. They just sit there and I either like this person or I don't. If they don't like you, there's not much you can do about it. They don't treat you badly. They just don't hang around you. But if they like you, they make it very clear they like you and you're always welcome. But we don't put up with any BS. Just don't BS me.
That is
Shoot
true.
me straight.
That's one thing I would say about Memphis is that you said it well. Yeah.
In fact, a lot of people that come here and have tried to BS us, and it's like everybody's he's one of those. Nice guy, but don't trust him.
Yeah.
So it is a very honest city, and I think, especially in the music business, because you play something, you go, do I like this? Or do you like this? I mean, you think this is going to be big. And that's something that you never hear. Nobody tries to blow smoke. They'll tell you what they really do think about it. Now, sometimes they're wrong, and they say, I don't like it, and it turns out to be a huge hit. So nobody ever knows what's going to be a huge hit, but you got a pretty good idea.
I think Memphis is a good indicator of if something can be successful or not. I think if you can get over in Memphis and get people here to listen, I think you can take it anywhere because people here have a discerning ear. There's so much good music here, just in, the churches here. Great musicians, down on Beale Street, great musicians. Everywhere you go in Memphis, there's incredible musicians. So it's in the DNA here. It's part of the culture. So if you're doing music and it's not really where it needs to be, I mean, people will be honest with you and they'll tell you, yeah, you need to go back to the woodshed and work on this a little bit more, or you really have something and, people will help you develop what you have and you can get it out to the rest of the world. It's a great place to develop, in my opinion.
Always has been and always, hopefully always will be, but with people like you here and Jerry Phillips and just Boo Mitchell.
Yeah.
Boo, when I heard Uptown Funk, Ron Olson played it on FM 100 when it first came out. The very first horn blast I heard in that, I went, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, and I went, that's a hit. Because it was a Memphis sound.
Yeah.
And he knew how to do it, and Mars said, hey, we're going to Memphis because we got to get that sound. And it is a sound.
Yes.
And you actually rebuilt the entire Phillips studio and brought in the old Stax console, which I think was very interesting to see that happen. Because was it more because of the history and because all the elements have changed? You don't use the same slides or anything else, right?
Well, I wouldn't say I rebuilt the entire studio. The beauty of Sam Phillips Recording is that it's been well preserved. But I mean, it's been a continuously running studio since 1960, and the family's never gotten rid of anything. So you go there and you see it, and you look at photos of it from when Scotty Moore was the first engineer down there in the early 60s, and you see the same mic stands, same chairs, everything. It's unchanged, which is a beautiful thing. But when I first went to work down there, a friend of mine who was working over at the Stax Museum, he got in touch with me, and he said, "Hey, Scott, I hear you're going to work over at Sam Phillips." I said, "I am. I'm really excited about it." He said, "I think Sam Phillips needs a Stax recording console." And I said, "I think they do too." And they had the studio, they had the console there over at the museum and storage that was that studio in the B studio at Stax. And Jerry asked me, he said, "Is there any way to, find out if this was actually used on
legitimately?" Yeah.
He said, "I don't want to tell people we have a Stax console and there wasn't anything of note
ever done with it."
And I said, "I think I can find out." So I called Willie Hall, who was a great session player over there at Stax. He played on all the Isaac Hayes recordings, Little Milton, Rufus Thomas. He was like one of the main session drummers over there. An incredible musician. Later went on to be in the Blues Brothers. If you ever see the Blues Brothers movies, Willie's the drummer. So I called Willie. I said, "Hey, Willie, Studio B at Stax, was that just like overdubs and mixing, or did you all record there?" And he goes, "Oh, man," he goes, "we recorded all kinds of stuff in there." And he started just going down the list of all the Isaac Hayes albums, all the Rufus Thomas albums. There's a lot of great songs, a lot of great records recorded on the console that we have. But we spent a year restoring that console, and we installed it in about 4 years ago, and it fits the studio perfect. It's Phillips you go there, and it's kind of like the best of the past and the best of the new. It's like
a blend.
It is a blend, and we also have installed 18 of the original channels from the very, very first recording console that was installed in Sam Phillips Recording in 1960. It was a tube console, and it's what Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs did Wooly Bully and Little Red Riding Hood and all the material that they recorded over there in the 60s. It was all done on these tube mic preamplifiers that we have also there now as well.
When artists come in and you start telling stories about the studio and the Stax console, do you think they appreciate it as much as you do or I do? Because I think it's amazing.
I think they do. I think some of them may even appreciate it more. They know, Jerry Phillips says it best. He says we have an iconic recording console and an iconic studio. So it's a good combination. It's got a great sound, and what I like about the console is it really sounds like when you record with that console out on the floor and you come in and listen to it in the control room, it sounds like what you heard out on the floor. It translates really well.
I was a freshman at Texas Tech. I graduated high school in '69 in Odessa, in the middle of nowhere in Texas. And yet in those days, they played top 40 was top 40. It didn't matter if it was top 40 country, top 40 blues, R&B. So we heard everything on the top radio stations there. I'm listening to Booker T and the MGs, Time is Tide, Green Onions. And that whole sound didn't sound like anything else you heard anywhere else. And you hear that organ, dun, and as soon as you heard that note, you went, that's coming from Memphis. I had no idea I'd ever end up in Memphis. And you get here and you realize that you have such a vast history of love for music all of it came from here.
I'll never forget the first time I heard Green Onions by Booker T and the MGs on the radio, and I'll never forget the first time I heard Soul Finger by the Bar-Kays. I was a kid. I didn't know what this music was, but the minute I heard it, I knew it was from Memphis. I don't know how.
Yeah,
but
same with me.
Yeah.
And then when Al Green came out in the 70s, had all those hits, and then you worked on a couple of his records, and nobody sounded like Al Green, the way he could sing and just the rhythm of that music. And it has endured. I mean, look how many people cover everything he's ever done. And it's just an amazing city. Everybody talks about the entrepreneurship here. You know, there's this huge Memphis Society of Entrepreneurs, and Kemmons Wilson, Abe Plow. You have all these inventive people, Fred Smith, that have done these incredible business things. But then it's the same thing going on with music. And you start kind of, and then you get into Brewer and his films that you've worked on. We'll talk about that in a minute, Craig Brewer. But there's a creativity here. And I hear a lot of people that come like to the Orpheum, and they'll say, there's something that you feel when you come to Memphis. There's something just different than any other city we go to, and they tour nationwide.
At one point, Memphis was the independent record label capital of the country, and maybe even the world. We had more independent labels here than any other place. And there is that independent spirit here. And I think what makes Memphis music special is that it's really the producers and engineers and the musicians I came up with, and we're trying to capture the essence of the song, the essence of the performers. You're trying to catch kind of that moment in the studio where it all comes together, and you're capturing that live moment. And that's what it's all about, is capturing people in a room doing something together, that magic.
Because it used to be they'd come into a room and they'd cut it live. In fact, so many artists, Elvis, they had the whole orchestra, the whole band there. They're all playing. They're not in different rooms, and they're not overdubbing. And you come in tomorrow, you do your part, and then we'll blend it all together. They were all playing together live. And so you had to be very good, because when nobody wanted to do another take. But I remember you saying that when you were writing for different things you've done, you had a certain artist that you knew could play this in mind, sort of like a director making a movie. They write certain parts for actors they know because they can actually see them and hear them speaking those parts, and you heard the same thing with music.
That's definitely my approach when I do film music. Whenever I write music for film or TV, I'll have a specific instrument, specific musician in mind for a specific character in the film or a moment.
We've got a clip of Black Snake Moan with Samuel L. Jackson, and I was blown away by just the music in it, number one, because I never saw it because I thought it was about snakes. I'm going to go see it. But after watching the trailer, I'm definitely going to go see it. But the music I was very impressed with. How do you, when somebody comes to you like Craig did and said, well, the first one was Hustle and Flow, right? And you were on that deal. That was before you hit it big. Nobody knew who Craig Brewer was until Hustle and Flow. Were you already friends with him?
So before Hustle and Flow, Craig made a self-financed digital film called The Poor and Hungry.
Yeah,
and you can still find that. It's great, and it's black and white, and he and his family made it themselves. And it won the Indie Film Festival, and it was kind of a sensation here in town.
I remember it.
Yeah.
Because The Poor and Hungry was actually a restaurant on Madison Avenue.
Yes.
And that was kind of where it was centered around?
It was.
Yeah.
And that's where he would go and write, and he had a connection to that restaurant. But I saw The Poor and Hungry, and I was real impressed with it. And around the time it came out, I met Craig, and I just said, hey, I think that's such a great project, and congratulations. I'm just so impressed with what you're doing, and I was impressed that he made that himself. And then he said, well, and he was familiar with music that I'd done. And he said, well, I love your band Impala and the music you guys do. I'd love to talk to you about doing music on my next film. It's called Hustle and Flow. I'd love to give you the score, or I'd love to give you the script, and you read it, tell me what you think about it. And he the next week he came over, he brought the script, and I read it, and I thought it was a great idea for a film. I thought it just kind of jumped out of the page, and I thought, this is going to be a great movie. I said, anything you need, I'm here to help you out with it. So I was fortunate enough to be involved in that, real early on, and that's been one of the most incredible working, relationships you could. For someone like myself that does music, I always wanted to do film music, and meeting Craig Brewer, it's like been such a blessing.
And he seems relatively unaffected by the whole thing. He seems exactly the same as he was before he did Hustle and Flow with his first film as an independent, because he got everybody was talking about it. He was everywhere, And then the Hustle and Flow comes out, huge hit. And so this is the next, genius director, and he keeps cranking it out. But I think he really appreciates where he's at and the things he's been honored by. But that's his talent. But I think he also enjoys helping other people like you and saying, let's do this together.
Absolutely, he's very much about the collaborative spirit. And just here this past weekend, he actually directed his daughter and her high school class in over at Crosstown High School. They did the play 12 Angry Men. They changed it to 12 Angry Jurors, but that was something to see him direct for the stage. It was great.
We do have a clip I mentioned before. This was Black Snake Moan and with Samuel L. Jackson. And this is a trailer for the movie, but you'll get to hear some of your music and just kind of see what the film is about. Let's roll that.
Little lady. You know a white girl with dirty blonde hair split down the middle like?
Tell my Ray. Girl got an itch. She got that sickness,
What sickness?
She goes crazy.
Take it easy, don't go too fast. Found you out by the side of the road. Looked like somebody took the beating on you pretty bad.
I guess I best be on my way.
Well, I think we need to talk.
No, sir. I gotta be on my way.
You best get your wits about you before you I want to tell you about that.
Why you got me chained?
You let them men treat you like that.
What the hell you know about me?
God put you in my path, and I aim to cure you of your wickedness. Get your ass back in my house.
What you thinking? A half-naked white woman chained up in your house?
I done made up my mind on this. I ain't gonna be moved.
You can take this off.
No, you ain't right yet. I'm fixing steaks for supper. I expect you to stay.
Wow.
I haven't seen that one in a while.
Very powerful. How do you do that? How do you read a script and not see anything in motion picture moving in the actors or anything else, and you write something, or do you start getting an idea, and then does he bring back the early rushes from the movie and start showing you things to give you more of a perspective?
I begin writing pretty much immediately when I read the script, and Craig also, he's a very, very musical director, and he's very, very good at describing music. So he can give me a script, he can tell me the scene, he can describe the scene, and he can describe the music, and I can almost go on that alone and write, or at least come up with a theme. And then when he's shooting the film, in the case of this one, I would get the dailies, and I would watch dailies and kind of write to those. And then once it's done filming, then he gets with the editor, and then they start putting scenes together, and that's when the writing process like really starts, and I start to refine everything.
Because I've seen sessions done before where they filmed, and they're playing the images on the screen.
Yes.
Everybody in the orchestra is in the room. There's a guy directing it, like you, and you're watching the movie as you're actually performing the music. Is that some part of it?
Absolutely, yeah. That's
Because I was watching it and I thought, God, think about it. We see it when it's all a finished product, but as you're building it, and that bass which you play was just so thunderous. And because I've watched movies before, and you go, well, it's really good, but the music's very thin in it. And I'm not a musician, so I don't know what that means. Thin, it didn't have the richness and just the exorbitant sound that you were hearing there. And all that plays a part of what makes a movie successful. Is you don't know why all these elements are moving you and affecting you like they are, but they all come together to do that. And do you feel that while you're actually making the movie and the music?
That's one of the reasons I enjoy this medium so much, and I love music. I love working in music. I love making records, but my favorite thing is to work in film and to do, to score a film and to do an original score for a film. Because it's a lot more than just music. You have to look at the lighting, you have to look at the editing and where the cuts are, you have to look at the expressions on the actors' faces. It's you have to take a lot of different things into consideration, and there's not anything to me that I enjoy more than when I record one of these score cues for a film, and then you play it back, and for the first time you hear this original music with the picture and with the film. It's very satisfying when you get that first playback and the director nods their head, his or her head, and like, yeah, that's amazing, and everybody in the room kind of gets goosebumps because the music and the film that's the moment they're married together. It's special.
And it's special right then. Then you get awards. You've gotten Emmys. You've been nominated, won Grammys. What is that like? Because everybody worked just as hard. I did a show called My Favorite Restaurant for about 10 years, and all these restaurateurs work just as hard. And they're just as dedicated, and they try every day to make their restaurant the best restaurant it could possibly be. And yet there are some restaurants that just soar and get awards and are considered the best there are, and other ones barely bump by and hit hard times and they go out of business. But the same thing has got to be true of musicians, composers, filmmakers. They all want to do the same thing. But then when you actually get an award, that's why I think people watch award shows, because you actually see people getting rewarded for what they worked so hard to do, and it's live. You're getting to see it as it happens.
Well, I haven't actually won a Grammy myself yet. I've worked on records that have won, but I didn't have a role on the record where the artist would get the Grammy, so I didn't receive a Grammy, but I have worked on Grammy-winning recordings. The people that have those restaurants, like you mentioned, you have to cook or make music or act or direct or write, whatever it is you do, you have to do it because you love it. You have to do it because, first and foremost, you can't imagine doing anything else, and if you don't do whatever that creative endeavor is, if you try, you have to do it whether you get awards or not. And with music, my motivation to do it is not for awards. I've been so fortunate to be able to make a living doing music and working in music. It's what I wanted to do ever since I was young, and it's been everything I wanted to do. But any other things that come along with it to me is just extra. That's not my motivation to do it. It's nice when you're recognized for what you do, and of course everyone wants to be recognized for their work, but you can't let that be your motivation to do it.
And once you put it on the shelf, that's pretty much it anyway. So it's on to the next project. And like any other business, is what have you done for me lately? And
yes.
And so you got to keep plunging ahead. Al Green, what was Al like to work for?
Al Green's on another level. He's in another, just as a vocalist, as an artist, he's really just on another level than most other people, most other singers. He can really do more with a song than anyone I've ever heard, and vocally he can do so much with his vocals. And music, it's so much about a feeling, and he just knows how to convey a feeling in a song. He just really knows how to convey the feeling of a lyric in a song. And being able to see he and Willie Mitchell work together, one of the most, I learned so much watching the two of them work. I worked as an assistant engineer on 2 albums, the last 2 records that Willie did with Al Green. They were for Blue Note Records, so I had the good fortune to work on those under Willie. And then I recorded one of the last things that Al Green released was a cover of a song called "A Perfect Day." He did a version of that, and it was a Lou Reed song, and that came out a couple years ago, and he came into Sam Phillips and recorded that, and I engineered it, and that was great to get to work on that.
I remember when he came back from doing just religious music and had the premiere of his return at the New Daisy Theater on Beale Street, and I heard about it. Wow, he's coming back and he's going to play his stuff again. And so I got a hold of his people. I was at Channel 5 then. Mm-hmm. I said, I love Al Green. I said, I would love to interview him, but I do the morning show, and so I have to get up at 3 in the morning. Can I come down before he does his show at the New Daisy tonight and interview him before he goes on? They said, well, let's talk to the Reverend and see what he says. And they called back and said, he said, that'd be fine. I went, great. So I go down there and knock on the door of the dressing room at the New Daisy, and he says, come on in. I walked in with my crew, and he looks at me and goes, Earle Farrell. He said, I watch you every morning. So you don't think about somebody like Al Green watching the news, but, he lives here.
Yeah.
And he was just so nice, so accommodating, and just so generous. And I've found that to be true of all those people. Carl Perkins, just up and down the line. Everybody is just genuinely nice and kind and considerate. And so, but then when you hear about people that are difficult to work with, you go, why? Why would you be difficult when everybody does nothing but try to produce the best product they can possibly do?
Well, I think a lot of those artists, you mentioned Carl Perkins and Al Green, they both came from, I think, fairly humble beginnings, and I don't think they've forgotten where they came from, Elvis, these guys, they struggled to get their careers going, and I don't think they forgot that.
Cyndi Lauper, what was Cyndi like?
Awesome. She's so fun. Sometimes, they say don't meet your heroes.
Because you'll be disappointed.
And in that case, she was even greater than you could imagine. She's a wonderful person to work with. Really, really takes care of the people who work with her. She's very, very considerate, like one of the most considerate people I've ever worked for. She's always trying to make sure she does right by everyone, and she's a very, very special talent, a very, very special singer, and just a really kind, great person. I love working with her.
As you said, it's always good to hear that people that aren't disappointing, that they're even better than what you had hoped they would be. We're going to talk about some of the things you got coming up. We're going to take a break, hear from some of our sponsors, and then we'll be right back. So stay with us.
All right.
Hi, I'm Dawn Grader, President and CEO of Southern Security Federal Credit Union. We're the proud title sponsor of the Earle Farrell for Memphis show. Coming to you live from Lansky's in the world-famous Peabody Hotel and celebrating all of the great things about our great city, Memphis, Tennessee.
Hi, I'm Glenda Hastings, owner of Napa Cafe, and I'm so proud to be part of the Earle Farrell for Memphis show, streaming live from Lansky's from the Peabody. We will be showcasing not only Napa Cafe, but some great restaurants around town. We look forward to seeing you.
Hello, Memphis Mid-South. And first, I'd like to thank you for visiting with Earle Farrell Memphis today, and we want to support him just like you do. I'm George Gully, one of the sales managers at Jim Carrey Chevrolet. We've been in business here in Memphis for over 75 years. I've been associated with the company for almost 25, and I'll help you find the right car, truck, or SUV here at not only our Chevy store, but also Buick, GMC, Nissan, Subaru. We can help you find that right car. Keep watching, Earl, and come see me. Thanks so much.
Hi, I'm Kathy Thurman Edwards, State Farm, and I'm so excited to be one of the sponsors for the Earle Farrell from Memphis show, broadcasting live from Lansky's at the Peabody. And I'll tell you all about what we've got going on at our office. Gift cards for quotes. No purchase necessary. I'm better looking than a lizard.
Hi, this is Randy Wright from the Dive Shop and Dive Ventures in Memphis. We've been in Memphis over 64 years teaching people to dive, snorkel, and swim. We'd love to have you come join us and have some fun. We're also a part of the Dive Ventures group with 18 locations across the country, stretched from Phoenix to Vienna, Virginia. Please give us a call. We'll be able to take care of you at 999 South Yates in Memphis, or call us at 901-763-DIVE.
Hi, I'm Brett Batterson, President and CEO of the Orpheum Theater Group in downtown Memphis. We are so pleased with our partnership with the Earle Farrell Show and very happy that he is broadcasting live from Lansky's at the historic Peabody Hotel. We're all here to make Memphis better.
Hi, I'm Mitch Wright. And I'm his son, Mickey. And we're the owners of Mitch Wright Plumbing, Heating, and Air.
And proud sponsors of the Earle Farrell from Memphis show.
We're thankful to be part of the Memphis community. We've been in business for 42 years, taking care of people and loving the people of the Mid-South.
And welcome back. Joining me today in Lansky's is Scott Bomar, who is a producer, an engineer, recording engineer, a filmmaker, a composer. He does it all. He's got a number of things going on now. Your band now is the Bouquets. Is that how you pronounce it?
The Bouquets.
Bouquets.
Yeah.
Is that a takeoff from the Barquets?
Barquets, Marquis, the Packies. In Memphis in this period in the early mid-'60s, there were all these hyphenated keys names of these bands. And we got started off as an instrumental band, and Mark Franklin, the trumpet player in the Bouquets and who I collaborate with all the time on projects, he said we should call the band the Bomar Keys. And I said, why don't we just shorten it to the Bouquets? So that's where the name comes from.
And it's all Memphis sound music. And you play people who have had great hits. You play your stuff. You play, but it's all that Memphis sound.
Yeah, we've toured the world playing the Memphis soul sound. Yeah.
What do people, when you go to France, Italy? Because I've talked to Alexander with the Barquets, and he said, we go to Europe, and we get to the airport, there's 25,000 people at the airport. And then we live here, and nobody even drives down our street, But that's kind of Memphis, so, you're just a part of the quilt. But he said that we go all over the world, and he said Memphis music, when people hear somebody's coming to play Memphis music, they just show up.
I've never seen anything like it. You go overseas and play, and you have people that they know all the records, they have all your records, they have they have all the records that everyone in your band has ever played on, and they show up and get you to sign all the records and buy all your merchandise, and it's They really love the Memphis sound. They really do.
I've asked people before, Alexis Grace, because she was on one of the big, star hunt shows, and I said, when you get into the competition, did other people from around the country say anything to you about being from Memphis? She goes, yeah, they say it's not fair. Like, I said, what do you mean? She goes, they go, well, you're from Memphis. I mean, I'm from Biloxi, or even Biloxi's better than most places. But this is such a musically rich area, and it's almost like you have an advantage if you were just around this area and are absorbing this energy that exudes in Memphis. And when you say now from Memphis, Tennessee, I think everybody expects more.
I remember Wayne Jackson from the Memphis Horns told me once, he said, you've got something that no one else can ever take away from you, and that's you can go anywhere in the world and tell someone that you're a Memphis musician and a door is going to open up for you. Yeah.
It pretty much says it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When you do go out on tour, because a lot of groups are so much into the show, and not just the music. Mm-hmm. Are you guys more just the music, and you're out there performing, or do you do a lot of flash bang and background videos and that kind of thing?
Unfortunately, we're not real active right now. We're not as active as we were a few years ago. We were doing a lot of touring with an artist named Don Bryant, and he's a great artist. He was on High Records. He was Willie Mitchell's first vocalist, and he was married to Ann Peebles, and he wrote and co-wrote a lot of her famous material, including I Can't Stand the Rain.
Oh, yeah.
So Don is retired now, but before he retired, we were doing a lot of work with him, and that was the main artist we were touring with. We did 2 albums with Don. The last album we did with him was nominated for a Grammy Award. And, when we went out with him, it was like a old school Memphis Soul review. We would come out and do a couple of our instrumental songs, and then we'd bring Don on, and he'd kind of tear the house down with his what he did. He'd been doing it since the late 50s, and that was a long time. That was a lot of experience that he had under his belt, and he knew how to really perform and sing and get a crowd going. So we did a lot of work with Don.
There was a movie maybe 20 years ago now called The Commitments.
Yes.
One of my favorite movies of all time. I had no idea what to expect. Jeff Sanford, who used to be on the city council and very involved in Memphis over the years, a good friend of mine. He said, you got to go see this movie. It's called The Commitments. You'll love everything about it. And for those that don't know, it's a movie about a bunch of people in Ireland that Wilson Pickett was their hero. And they heard he was coming over, and so they were going to try to put a band together so they could maybe entice him to play with them. Loosely is what the premise was. But they all have these people trying out so they could find a band to put together. And they let anybody try out. And it was just, you saw all this horrible talent. And then they started finding people that were really the bus driver, who was incredible. It turned out to be the lead singer. These girls that were great. And they ended up touring after they made the movie because they were so good and everybody loved the music so much. And it was really a phenomenal movie. And then they ended up having the same problem as all the people in real life because they couldn't get along and they broke up and everybody went back to driving buses and fixing hair. But I think the music from that movie was sort of like the Blues Brothers. It superseded even the film. It was just people loved the music, and you never get tired of watching a movie that has great music.
Yeah. I mean, the Bokeys, through that group, I had the opportunity to work with artists that just kind of like a dream list of artists. And, Rufus and Carla Thomas, William Bell, Eddie Floyd, Sam Moore, Bobby Rush. I know I'm leaving some off, but we got to back up some just incredible artists and work with some really phenomenal soul singers.
Song Sung Blue, where is that now? And is that coming out as a Broadway show in New York, or is it going to go on to? How does that whole thing going to work?
Well, Song Sung Blue is the latest Craig Brewer film. Comes out Christmas Day. and it stars Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson. And it's based on a documentary that's called Song Sung Blue, and it's about a couple, and it's a real story. And I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to spoil it.
Sure.
But the husband, he's a musician, and he has a Neil Diamond tribute act. And his wife, who Kate Hudson plays, she has a Patsy Cline tribute act. And so they have this kind of combined band that they do called Lightning and Thunder. And it's about their sort of rise in Milwaukee, and they encounter some, life throws them some curves along the way, and it's a great film. I think it's a great music film. It's a great love story.
Is it set here in Memphis?
It's set in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in the 1990s, yeah. But it's based on a true story. Unfortunately, Mike Sardina, the main character that Hugh Jackman plays, he's no longer with us, but Claire Sardina, she's still with us. She actually came to set some. She came and sang a song at our wrap party after we got finished filming, but it's been a dream project to work on, and I think there's 12 or 13 Neil Diamond songs in the film, 2 Patsy Cline songs that Kate Hudson sings, and 2 Buddy Holly songs that Michael Imperioli, who you may know from The Sopranos, he's the guitar player in the band. So all the music was recorded in Memphis. The vocals we did in Los Angeles and New Jersey, but all the music was all done here in Memphis. It was all recorded at Sam Phillips Recording and Southern Groove Studio, which is Matt Ross Spang's studio. And it's all Memphis musicians, with the exception of an amazing guitar player named Richard Bennett, who lives in Nashville. He played with Neil Diamond for 18 years,
wow.
And he came and played guitar with us. And he was such a special musician to work with. If you look, he has one of the most impressive discographies I've ever seen, and he's on a lot of the famous Neil Diamond recordings. But I think there's a really beautiful thing about this film and the music, and that's that some of Neil's biggest songs, Sweet Caroline, for instance, was recorded here in Memphis with Chip's Moment over at American Studio, and now here decades later, there's this new film with Neil Diamond's music, and we recorded it in Memphis. So I'm really proud of that.
I'd heard the story, and I thought Jerry Phillips told me that Neil Diamond wrote it, and he said it may have been here at the Peabody that he was staying. But then Brett Batterson, who's head of the Orpheum, was just with Neil. So I said, ask him. He knows where he was, because in the Broadway show that came here just a couple of months ago about Neil Diamond.
Yeah, that's great. I went and saw it.
Wasn't it great?
Yeah.
The guy playing Neil Diamond, said he was in a real crappy motel.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah. And it probably on Summer Avenue someplace. But the fact that he did write it here, and it was at Chip's Moments
American Studio. Yeah.
You know, the picture, did you see that? I texted it to you today, a picture of a door to Chip's Moment Studio when it was Memphis Sound Works.
Yes.
And it still has it on the door. It's the whole door with a clear glass window in it. And that's where they recorded, I guess, Suspicious Minds with Elvis.
Kentucky Rain,
and then one other, Suspicious Minds. And that's what really launched Elvis's career again, were those hits with Chip's Moment.
That studio, you look at what came out of Chip's studio, it's really unbelievable. I mean, Son of a Preacher Man by Dusty Springfield, The Letter by the Box Tops, Memphis Soul Stew. I mean, I'm barely even scratching the surface. I mean, it's just a list a mile long of the hit records recorded over there.
I think Dusty Springfield did 3 of her biggest hits. I thought I wrote them down. There was one that was the Power of Love, I think, was one of them. But they came in, it was just like magic. All this stuff was just flowing out. which I've always thought it would really be neat if somebody did a timeline of what was going on at each one of those studios at the same time.
Yeah.
Because it was all, I mean, Elvis was at RCA in Nashville. You had Stax here. You had Willie Mitchell at Royal. You had American Studio. And it was like everybody was going into the studio, but nobody knew that we'd have a hit next week. And then another one popped up. As far in your history and you're meeting all these people, were they aware of all the other artists that having hit after hit coming out at the same time?
I think they were, and there was definitely crossover with the musicians too, especially the horn players and the string players. All those studios were using most of the same horn and string players, and the other connection with all this was, Rick Hall's studio Fame down in Muscle Shoals.
Yeah.
And Muscle Shoals Sound, the other studio down there, because a lot of the Memphis guys were going down there and doing sessions as well.
Well, Norbert Putnam, who is from Muscle Shoals, was in Nashville. He was Elvis's bass player when Elvis would go in the studio there. In fact, he told me one time that they were at Stax, the only time Elvis ever recorded at Stax. And they were doing some cover stuff, and somebody said, "What about doing a Roy Orbison song?" And Elvis goes, "Man, if I thought I could have done a Roy song, I'd have done it a long time ago." But nobody can sing like Roy. And they really couldn't. I mean, it was like everybody could start off singing with him on any of his songs, low and slow. But then the range was unbelievable. And to this day, you never see on any of the talent shows anybody sing a Roy Orbison song. They sing any other, but you don't try to copy Roy.
There's an artist here in Memphis named John Namath. He's a really good blues artist, and I produced an album on him once, and he did the song "Crying" by Roy Orbison.
Love that song.
You should find that one. Now, he does a pretty good version of it.
Well, I'm amazed that anybody can do it. His music is just so, Pretty Woman, what a perfect song, and same thing with Crying. Crying, what a song, and yet he's talking about crying, but you didn't feel sorry for him, You just said, "No, I know the feeling, I know what you're saying."
He's another one of those artists, we're talking about Al Green. Roy Orbison was another one of those artists that you felt it when he sang. And that's the same thing with Al Green. When he sings, you feel it. Elvis Presley, Bobby Blue Bland, these, I don't know what it is about Memphis, but vocalists here, they know how to emote emotion through a microphone onto tape and onto a record and out to the world. That's the beauty of recording. I think that's why those of us who do it like it. You capture this moment, and Tom stands still in the recording studio. That's the magic and the beauty of it. You're capturing this moment forever.
I know when Billy Gibbons used to come to Memphis is when I had sleepouts, and he'd be at Art, and he'd come in the middle of the afternoon and eat lunch, and just the nicest fellow, and we just talked about everything, and not specifically about him being here recording. They were working hard every day, but he thoroughly enjoyed coming to Memphis because, Ringo Starr walked out of the Peabody with him, and people were walking by and go, "Hey, Ringo," like they saw him every day, And that's the way Memphis is. People know who you are, but they knew who Ringo was, and like I asked Carl Perkins, who I met the first time here at the Peabody. Gary Bells, they had him come in for something. He said, "You need to come over here." I was at Channel 3 then, and meet Carl and interview him. He said, "You'll love him. Get over here." And we did a long interview, and I asked him, I said, "Does it ever bother you that, you had, of course, nobody liked the fact that you had an accident and nearly died, and it took you a year to come back. In the meantime, Elvis covers Blue Suede Shoes and takes off. His career is incredible. And then Carl, you still work the rest of your life. You're still working. You perform with the Willoughbys and all these those black and white specials on home box office that were incredible." He said, and then later on went in Jackson to his house, interviewed him, went to the museum and all that. He said, "I got to lead a regular life. I got to have a family. I got to live in Jackson, Tennessee. I could go anywhere in the world, play with the best musicians in the world. And then I got to come back and just be a regular human being." He said, "I really think I was the one that ended up with the best career of all because I got to do it all. And yet I still got to have a pretty much a regular life, supper at 6, that kind of thing when I wasn't recording." And you look at that and you think that is true. You know, if you can lead a regular life and yet be exposed to the best musicians in the world during your lifetime, I mean, how much better does it get? And that's what you're doing. I mean, at Sam Phillips Studio.
It's a dream come true. The first time I ever walked in the lobby of Phillips Recording, I was probably 18 or 19. I was coming in to record my first full-length album, and I walked in. I said, this is where I want to work when I grow up. This is, in my mind, when I think of a recording studio, that was it. Yeah.
That was one of the first places I came when I came to Memphis. Went in and met Knox and Sam, and we went to the studio. I've got the picture, still got the picture.
Wow.
My two producers, photographer and producer, we're all standing there with legendary Sam Phillips and Knox Phillips in his studio, and that was like a little more over a year after Elvis had passed away.
Mm-hmm.
But they will forever be part of rock and roll history. And so will the Sun Studio, so will Sam Phillips Studio. And it's just like here at Lansky's, you never know who's going to walk in the door.
Never know.
And same thing with your studio.
That is the amazing thing about it. You never know who will come through, and then the history between. I love coming down here and seeing Hal Lansky. I love Lansky's, and it's that shared history between the Phillipses and the Lanskys. It's part of the fabric of our city here, and it's amazing to be a little part of it. You know, anytime I have an event that I need to go to, I come in here and see Hal, and he just
fixes you up.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does everybody.
Yeah.
He's told me so many, and Bernard told me, I did a video biography for the family on Bernard while he was still alive because they wanted him to tell his story, as only Bernard could. And, you know, we talked about Sam the Sham, how he came up with the outfit for them, and Sam had left he called it his motorcycle, or at least that's what Bernard called it, my motorcycle. And he left it in Lansky's warehouse in their location on Beale Street. And after he'd been touring for a couple of years, he gets back and he goes, "Hey, man, when you go get that motorcycle out of my back room?" He said, "Is that where it is?" He said, "It's now at the Rock and Soul Museum." And it was actually on the cover of one of his albums. That
Hard and Heavy. That's the name of the album.
Yeah. So they got the motorcycle back. He talked about the Isaac Hayes walked in, and all these guys were getting gigs, but they had no clothes. And they said, "Look, I have no money to buy anything. I don't have anything decent to wear tonight. Can we work out some kind of deal?" And Bernard would outfit them and say, "We're going to do this on the, walk now, pay later." And he would get them outfitted. And same thing with Sam Sham, all of them. And Elvis is the same way. He said, "I'm going to come buy you out one day." "No, just come buy from me. Don't buy me out. And so they are a part of rock and roll history, and the people that come in here all the time, and they're from everywhere, and they love the fact they can come in here, and there is a connection. And I think that's the whole thing about your studio, Sam Phillips Studio, Memphis itself. There is a connection, and it will always exist.
Well, you can come to Memphis, you come to one of the studios here and sound good, you come down here and see Hal Lansky and
look good.
Look good.
Everybody looks good in the Lansky. I do want to tell a last story about you. My wife just with For Memphis Magazine.
Yes.
And they were shooting at the Car Museum, the Edge Museum, right next door to your studios. And they needed a car moved because they were trying to shoot this other car outside. And so Kathy goes, her editor, "We don't have a mic for you." And they said, "Well, let's see if we can get them to move this other car." So they go and they open the door, and Sandy, who's the publisher, she goes, "That's a guy right there. I think he's really a big deal." And so they go over and they go, "Could you find out who owns that car?" He said, "Oh, that's my car. Do you need to move it?" "I will be glad to move it." You're very, very cordial, very nice. They moved your car out of your own parking lot so that they could shoot there. But I thought that was really cool. I mean, you're described as kind of a big deal.
Well, I like the magazine, and I was glad to do it.
Well, it's those are the small moments. It may not mean much to you, but when somebody else says, "And guess who the guy was? The car on the car." It was like Rufus Thomas when they dedicated a street on Beale Street.
Yeah.
I was there that morning, and there was a Lincoln Continental parked right on the street by the curb, and the cops are going, "Who owns this car? We got to get it out of here. We're getting ready to have this ceremony." And Rufus came running over in his shorts. He goes, "That's my car." He goes, "Oh, Mr. Thomas, well, you can leave your car there then."
Yeah, he's getting the street named after him. I heard a funny story about Rufus once. It's one of my favorite stories about awards and about Rufus. I don't remember what award, but I heard a story that he was given an award, and as he was giving his acceptance speech, he turned it around or looked at the bottom, and he goes, "I thought it would have a check attached to it."
I thought it would really be special. Well, he was always very nice to everybody. I mean, he was, and Carla, same way. And just another case, remember the Green Machine, Herman Green?
Yeah, Herman Green.
I used to go see him and Boyington. They used to tune our pianos. Richard Boyington, who's a great musician here. And I'd go see them at a place on Beale Street. It was upstairs, the very last place on the east end of Beale. And there would be nobody else in there, but there would be Herman Green and his band and Boyington playing. And in those days, I mean, you could fire a cannon off down Beale Street on a cold winter night and not hit anybody. And yet they showed up, they played just like there was 1,000 people in there. Yeah,
but another mentor for me was the guitarist Calvin Newborn, who used to play down on Beale. He has a long history with Memphis, but he played with Charlie Wood for years down there at the King's Palace.
I had a friend of mine from Texas who's a blues guy. He did a lot of other things, but that was his passion. He and his brother came to see me, and they were going to do the Blues Trail and come to Memphis. And he said, "I'd just like to sit in with the guys that are playing on the street on Beale. Do you think I could do that?" I said, "Yeah. Get you a fifth of Jack Daniels, walk up to them, hand them the fifth, and say, 'I'd like to play with you guys.'" And they'll say, "Sit down and play." And he did. And he said, I said, "That's been going on for hundreds of years. That's how you get in to play with people. You know, you contribute something, they'll let you hang out." And he went all the way down to Clarksdale, Greenville, and just had a blast. And he said that, I thought it was very apropos, too. He goes, "The thing about this is there's nothing fake about it. It's not like going to Disney World and they've got Blues Alley or whatever that they made up and built the whole thing. This all has always existed. This is the real deal." And it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of... That's where I send folks when they come from out of town, want to go hear some music. That's one of the places I say you got to go.
Well, if people want to come see your studio, do you have a day that you let people come in and kind of look around, or does that kind of haphazardly happen, or what do you suggest?
We don't officially give tours there. Yeah, if you look at the door...
Do the tour buses drive by and point you out?
They do that. But, you know, when I first went to work down at Phillips, the family told me, they said, you know, folks want us to do tours, but the way we see it, we're a working recording studio.
It ain't over. Yeah, it ain't over.
We're in there every day. There's someone in there every day making music, doing something.
Well, I'd love having you on. Thank you for taking the time to come do this. And we'll do it again. Anybody you have come along that you think should be exposed to everybody else, bring them in. And we'll introduce them as your protege.
All right. I got a long list for you. There's a lot of talent here. I'll send some folks your way.
Well, let's do it.
All right.
All right. Scott Bomar, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. It's our show for today. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.